Hello friends, it's Shannon here and welcome to Christmas in July Crafty Collaboration Video Hop. In today's video we're going to create this rainbow shaker card featuring some products from Hero Arts. I'm going to start out with an A2 panel of Bristol paper. Bristol paper comes in two forms, a vellum and a smooth. Either will work. I'm using vellum today and the brand of Bristol paper I'm using is Strathmore. I'm first going to tape my Bristol paper down to this thick cardboard. This is going to prevent warping when we add our water, or at least try to kind of prevent warping. I did grab a rectangle die here just to kind of help me leave enough space because I am going to die cut this panel later with that die, so I want to make sure I don't cover up too much with the tape. I then laid out my Tombow dual brush pins in rainbow order and then started with my middle color, which was yellow, and now I'm just quickly scribbling down the left half of my rainbow, my warm half of the rainbow, on kind of this upper portion of my panel. Once I finish with the warm colors, I'll then move to my right half, which is the cool, and just again scribble that color down kind of at a diagonal onto my panel. And I'm not doing this in a really neat fashion because when we're going to add this water, it's going to really activate that ink and make it spread around. So now I'm just going to spritz this panel a few times with my water, and you can see that ink is already activated and starting to move. I didn't speed up this portion of the video. This is in real time here, so you can see how quickly that ink is moving. I went ahead and grabbed my rocket air blaster here, and you can see how I'm using this to kind of blast off some of that orange and red color because it was moving quickly down and kind of consuming my yellow and my blues. But I just moved some of that color off, and now I'm just going to continuing to blow that air around to move that color, that ink around, so I can fill in and just kind of control the look a little bit more, mix some colors in some areas, blow some blue around here and there a little bit more, just to kind of get more of that rainbow look that I'm looking for. I do want to talk about the ink that I'm using, or the markers that I'm using. The markers I'm using are filled with a water-based ink. You do not have to just use Tombow dual brush pens for this technique. You can use other markers that have water-based ink. Some examples are distress markers and Caron brush markers, so those would work as well. So I went ahead and let this dry completely, and now I can remove my tape. And I used Micropore Tape here. That's just because that's what I had. Probably painter's tape would be even better, but the Micropore Tape did a good job, and you can see it's not warped. It looks great. So now I'm ready to die cut this watercolor panel with that rectangle die that I had out earlier, and we're left with this beautiful, intense, bright little background here. Now I'm going to move on to our die. We have the Joy and Wish Ornament Fancy dies. I actually only have that bow from the Wish die, and I went ahead and die cut those out of white cardstock. Now I'm going to grab the Joy Ornament die again, and you can see it's two parts. I went ahead and die cut it out of craft foam, so we have this bit of dimension. This is what we're going to need to make the well for our shaker card. So I'm just going to cut out the Joy here from this craft foam one because I don't need that craft foam Joy. And now we're going to grab this circle die here, make sure it fits up or lines up with the Joy ornament die, and now we can use this to cut out some acetate that will fit perfectly behind that ornament. So I went ahead and cut that acetate out, and now we're just going to adhere our cardstock Joy right on top. And again, I cut out the Joy out of cardstock and craft foam, as well as the little kind of hanging element out of cardstock and craft foam. So I just adhere that together and then placed a platform on it while it dries. Now we're going to stamp a sub-sentiment here, or our sentiment. I have a stamp set from Hero Arts. This is the Christmas and Holiday Stamp and Cut extra large. I just stamped it in Versamark Watermark ink, and I am dipping it into some white embossing powder, and then I'll heat set this with my heat tool, and we'll have this beautiful linear sentiment that's going to add a nice pop of color or some structure to our design. Now I'm going to fussy cut this out. Now this is probably going to be look like too much work for most people, which I totally understand. This could be easily kind of cut out with your paper trimmer or a craft knife, and just to create a nice simple sentiment strip. But I do like fussy cutting it out because it makes it a little tighter and you see more of the background that way. So I think it's worth the extra effort. Now I'm going to go ahead and kind of put this card together, starting with a second panel that I die cut out of scrap white cardstock. I'm just going to adhere that to the back side of my watercolor panel. That's going to add a little bit of dimension and strength. Now I'm going to trim my craft foam hanging element just a little bit rounded at the top so it fits nicely when it's next to the ornament. Now I have the craft foam ornament. I'm just going to add some liquid adhesive to it and adhere it on to our rainbow panel. Just center it up here and stick it right down. So this craft foam circle has that little bit of dimension. That's going to be the walls for our shaker card. Now I'm going to quickly adhere our foam to the panel as well. And here I kind of make a little mistake. After I adhere this down, I cut this the rest of the craft foam hanging part off, and I should have just left it. But no worries, we will fix that later. Now I have this gorgeous sequins mix from the Diary of the Belle Rose, and I'm just going to fill up my shaker well here, or my ornament, with some of the sequins and confetti from this awesome little mix. I am trying to avoid some of the big sequins just because they're kind of white, and I think they'll make it a little bit hard to read my joy because it's white as well. Once I have that filled to my liking, I'm then going to add some liquid glue to the top of that craft foam ornament. And then I realized some of my some of my shaker elements were kind of stacked on top of each other, so I just kind of evened it out, and then I capped it off with my acetate and cardstock joy ornament. Lastly, I'll adhere the cardstock hanging element right over the craft foam one and let that dry for a little bit. Once that has dried, I'm going to flip this over and kind of fix my little boo-boo by re-adhering that craft foam hanging element to the backside of the cardstock one. This just keeps that, add some support to that hanging element and some dimension obviously as well. Then I'll add some liquid glue to the backside of my panel, and then it's ready to adhere onto my card front. Once I have this stuck down, I do need to trim off the overhang of that hanging element, but I'll let it dry a little bit first. Now that it's dry, I'll turn it over and just trim off that excess, and then all we have left to do is our last two little pieces here, our bow and our sentiment. Just going to add a little bit of glue to the backside of the center of that bow and stick that down. It's such a cute little element, nice little touch to add that to the card, I think. And then we'll finish up with our sentiment here, just adding some liquid glue, and I'll place it right under the joy in the ornament, and that will kind of finish up this pretty simple shaker card, but really impactful with that rainbow background. And also I think that background really helps for you to really see the beautiful snowflakes in this sequins mix. I think that can kind of get lost sometimes in shaker cards, but here in this one you can really see it, and I think that little black and white subsentiment really helps to kind of anchor everything and really draw your eye in. I hope you guys enjoyed today's card and video. Make sure you check out the awesome, incredible crafters in this video hop, and I hope you have a wonderful day.